Welcome to Iconic Leadership, the podcast for female entrepreneurs who know they're here to lead, not just build a business. This show is for women stepping into the Alpha Queen era, where leadership becomes identity, power is embodied, and success is created from the inside out. Here, we explore sovereign leadership, expansion, vision, purpose, business, and the inner work that is required to build an empire that fits the woman you are becoming. Strategy matters, but who you are matters more. I'm Karissa Adkins, and this is Iconic Leadership. Welcome to the new standard of the Alpha Queen power. You guys, I am so excited for today's amazing Iconic Leadership podcast show. I've got an incredible guest with me, and for the first time ever, I'm really excited to be sharing something new that we're launching in the Alpha Queen Collective. So we are launching something brand new called the Alpha Queens Rising, and it's not another Facebook group, but here's the truth, right? Social media communities are so crowded. They're so noisy, and they're filled with ads and pitch fests and cold DMs and distractions, and honestly, a lot of surface level engagement and high level ambitious women, right? We don't hang out over on Facebook communities. We don't, join all the groups. That's for our marketing team. But what I've realized is, as a high level leader in my company, I really crave community. I crave, real connection with other amazing women. And so I am really excited to say that we are getting off of Facebook communities. We are no longer going to be doing that anymore. And we have decided to create a new way of doing community. So Alpha Queens Rising is a private, distraction-free space for women who know they're meant for more. Whether you're still in corporate, stepping into leadership, or you're building a business, or you're already a multi-six-figure entrepreneur, this space is designed for real growth. So inside our brand new community, we host weekly live trainings on business and leadership. We bring you free workshops and masterclasses every month. We focus on strategy, but also mindset mastery. And because I know how busy ambitious women are, we also include grounding meditations and alignment practices in there, so that you're not just building success, you're building it from a centered, confident place. So this is about meaningful connections. This is about real networking, elevated conversations, no pitch fest, no spammy DMs, and no algorithm controlling. You know what I mean? So it's a community done the way powerful women actually like to do community. And the best part, ladies, is it's completely free. And I'm really excited because I just planned out our next couple of live masterclasses inside of the community, because it's brand new and we're so excited to get you in there. So I'm going to host one in April and one in May. But the one in April is called the Success Code. And over 5 days, I'm going to help you activate the woman that you've always meant to be. So it's a completely free 5-day mini series. And it's exclusively happening inside of our brand new community. And this particular, workshop series is for the woman who knows she's meant for more, right? More impact, more income, more consistency, more confidence, but is ready to understand the internal laws that actually control her results. So if that's you, get into our community. I'm so excited. So with that, I want to kind of dive into today's conversation. It's a special conversation. And we talk a lot about leadership and business, right? And we talk about how leadership, is something that happens in boardrooms and in companies. And, we talk about leadership with big decisions, but some of the most important leadership is it happens quietly in the home, right? And it happens in the way we show up for our children. It happens in the way we listen, the way we advocate, the way we protect and guide our kiddos. So even when we're unsure or afraid, right, we have to step into the leadership mom role. And my guest today, she is an incredible woman, super heart-centered, totally, selfless, in my opinion, so community supportive. But my guest today is Jenn Jorgensen. She is a mother, she is a volunteer, and an advocate for children's mental health. And she personally is a powerful example of what leadership looks like beyond the titles, beyond business, and what leadership looks like in the home. And you guys, this is a special guest for me. She's not only an amazing mother, an amazing wife. She's started businesses. She's worked for other people, so she really understands what leadership looks like in all levels. But she is my best friend, and I'm so excited to have this conversation. So, with Jenn, welcome to Iconic Leadership Podcast Show. How are you today?
I'm good. How are you?
Oh my gosh, I'm excited. I'm excited. Okay, so I don't want to waste any more time because your story is incredible, right? You have so many incredible things that I want to talk about. So I just kind of want to dive right in. And not a lot of people know this from the outside looking in, but you actually went from 0 kids to 3 kids in what, like a year, I think it was. Tell us a little bit about that experience of how you went from 0 to 3 and what life looked like when you had all those kiddos in one house.
It was crazy. I didn't even think twice. We found out we were pregnant after many losses of babies. And then I think I found out, and then 7 days, maybe at most, later we got asked to take in our nephews and nieces. And without skipping a beat, my husband was in Germany. I was like, absolutely. And then I was like, wait, I should probably ask him. But I knew that God had a plan for me to be a mother, and if it wasn't naturally, he was going to find another way for me to be a mom. And I knew taking in these kids was the right step.
I love that. I love that. A lot of people will say they would absolutely do that, for anyone, especially like we have godparents, we have friends, like personally, you're the one that for many years, I was like, Jenn, if anything happens to me, right? Like you would take my kids, right? And a lot of people will say that they will, but not a lot of people would actually do it. I mean, that's an interruption. And you didn't even look at that as an interruption. You absolutely knew that this was the place that God needed you to be, and He provided for sure. So I actually want to kind of start there, ladies, because if you've ever went from anything like from 0 to like kids or from not married to married, right? Life changes drastically. So I am curious. How has motherhood changed the way you define strength and responsibility as a woman?
Um, so strength, I think I would say that you don't know the strength you have as a mother until you become a mother, but that instinct to protect your children at all costs just comes in. So that whole mama bear thing, that is something you don't know you have until you get it. And I have always taught my kids that to have love for themselves. So, and in order to teach that, you have to walk that avenue. So you have to do self-care to yourself, to teach self-care, but you do it in front of your children. You don't do it behind closed doors where they don't get to see you doing that. You do it so they will also lead in that same path of taking care of themselves.
I love that. You say it like superhuman mom strength. I remember I had this experience one time. I was shutting the garage door, right? And it was like old school back in the day. It was like my very first house, I think, in Bellevue. And I went to shut the garage door, and my fingertips got shoved in, inside one of those like creases. And Jane was about, I think he was like 6 years old at that time, Jenn. And, I looked at him, I was like, Mommy needs your help, right? Mommy needs help. And he was just like this little boy. And I was like, can you help, Mommy? And he would try and he'd try. I mean, my fingers are stuck in the garage, by the way. Like if you can just imagine this scene, as like if you like looked out your window and your neighbor's like, what the heck? But all of a sudden, like as a mom, because he started crying, he's like, I don't know what to do, Mommy. And I just like, like lifted up this entire garage thing and I ended up getting out. But like I know what that means to like find that super mom strength. And I think that that's why so many moms are like superheroes, in a sense. So I'm curious, what does leadership look like inside your home on an ordinary day? Like, what does you being the leader inside your house house look like every single day?
So, confidence. You have to teach confidence because that's how you're going to teach leadership. So, you got to teach them to love themselves, respect themselves. So, we start with faith, love, and happiness. And I'm not talking about tangible happiness. I'm talking about finding that inner beauty inside you. What do you love about yourself? So, a couple questions I ask my kids on a daily basis is, like, have you helped somebody today? So they're teaching kindness to somebody else by just doing it without looking for recognition.
Mm.
The other thing is that I always ask them, is there anything you want to change about your day and why? Because I want to know how their brain is thinking. And then I ask them what they loved about their day and what made them smile and what made them laugh for the day. Because usually with those types of questions, you can find out how their day's gone, how to help build their confidence, find out what bothered them, but also teach them how to do how to change that. So if a situation happened at school that they didn't like, how would you change it, or how would you react differently? Because I know in the moment we will react hot and heavy. So teaching your kids to pause and hold back and then react is key to letting them think through a situation.
Oh my gosh. Ladies, if you're listening and you're like, oh, I don't have kids, maybe I should just tune out. Like, absolutely not. Because I'm telling you right now, as entrepreneurs, as women, right, we tend to be reactive when, we tend to be triggered. And like her piece of advice was just brilliant. Like, everyone can walk away with like that golden nugget, at least right there, right? It's like, okay, I reacted this way. How would I do it differently next time? And it's really, that's what leadership to me is learning how to, learning how to really start to control emotional mastery so that we're not always reactive and we're starting to, be proactive and like taking that pause back and asking like, how do I want to react? Like, that's a huge leadership move right there. I'm curious, what is, I love that practice, by the way. That's amazing. So, well, I'm curious, what sparked your advocacy for children's mental health?
Losing a child
Hmm.
to mental health.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah. And as a parent, what did you wish you had known earlier about children's mental health and emotional health before losing her?
Um, I think I wish I would have learned that as a parent, to be able to push harder as an advocate versus all these systems that want to put walls up against you and that don't want to help you, because the only time they want to help you is if you're at the worst. We as a healthcare system don't want to be proactive. So
Hmm.
when you have kids in early stages of mental health, which is where we started, and everything that we kept saying and bringing up, we kept getting shunned, and that's just being a teenager. Oh, that's just a side effect from her concussion. That's just this. And as a parent, you know your kid, whether you birth them or not, you know your kid. I can say that I probably, birthing one kid and having two other, I have the same connection with all of them. I don't have a different connection with each one of them. But when things are not right with them, and when they're not, you have to keep fighting. You have to keep finding the right providers who also support you and are going to keep pushing through the systems, because every system is going to put a wall up and stop you, because they don't make money off of you being proactive. They make money off of you when you're at your worst. And that's the sad reality of our society right now.
That's insane. And it's such a huge thing. Like, this is a topic and a conversation that needs to go worldwide, in my opinion. I truly believe that. And, and your daughter, right? She was this gorgeous, guys. If you didn't know her, she's this gorgeous, beautiful, very talented, smart and funny, amazing little girl. And, she was an athlete. She had everything right. If we were just looking, from out and like watching her, she was a track athlete, like so passionate, so funny, and you just would have never even known that she was struggling on the inside. And that's why it's so important to understand, what our kids are actually feeling and not just looking from the outside outside window and assuming that everything is all okay. And I know that that is not what Jenn did. Jenn was very proactive with helping, trying to get, her the support that she needed for sure. So, what were some of your biggest challenges, Jenn, or what would you say some of the biggest challenges families face when navigating mental health support for children?
Constantly being told no and the door closed. Like the biggest thing that we have right now is saying kids are, oh, that's being 13, or oh, that's being 14 years old. Oh, that's a preteen behavior. No, that's not the answer. That is not even, to me, that's just putting a blanket over something and you're not actually dealing with the situation. Um, and every kid is different. I have 3 kids and I have 3 different types of mental health. Like my youngest is, going through losing a sibling, but I have 2 older kids who were abused as children, and trying to navigate how to help them, how to make them advocates for themselves, and then teach a kid over here who's never been abused. He's witnessing all of it and he's learning how to help guide them and protect them as well. You have to look at each kid instead of trying to put, oh, this kid belongs in this bucket and this kid belongs in this bucket. No, every kid has their own bucket. No 2 kids are the same. You need to quit treating us like an umbrella and start looking at each kid as a whole, and look at from where their foundational break is. When we took in the kids, we had to take a foster class and they taught us that there's a foundational break and you have to go back and fix that foundational break, because they'll never be able to move forward until you look at it as a crack in your concrete out there. You're going to keep tripping over it until you fix it, right? So it's the same thing with a kid who has been abused or something like that. They're going to keep tripping over that same scenario situation. It's going to haunt them in their dreams. It's going to do a lot. And until you can get them the right help for that, you can't ever get past that.
Wow.
And so that was one of those things that we worked so hard on in our house, but there's only so much information parents get to use on their own. And then you have to start seeking help from mental health professionals or doctors or even treatment facilities where you do have to use medicine, where we did all the alternative non-medication routes. We burnt all of those out. They didn't work. So we started to move on to the medication route. And then that's where every single door kept getting slammed in our face.
Wow. So what would you say is the real challenge with the healthcare system then when it comes to youth mental health?
We don't want to be proactive. We want to wait till they have done a serious attempt. For instance, our daughter in 6th grade was cutting. Mm-hmm. And she sat underneath the desk in a mental health hospital talking to the healthcare professional. And she said, okay, you guys are good to go home. And I said, excuse me? You haven't even assessed her. She's been sitting underneath the desk. Oh, she's fine. That's just how some kids are. And I said, no, that's not how my kid is. So I would like somebody else to come in and assess her. And I would like you never to be on our case again. Mm-hmm. And she kind of got upset with me and started going off on me. And I said, well, I'm her mom and I know right from wrong. And this is wrong. She's not feeling right. And she was cutting because it helped relieve the pain. She had later in the car ride admitted to me, if you do not take your kids on a car ride by themselves to go do something, I highly suggest it, because it is like open mic in the vehicle. I do not know what it is about a car ride with your kid, but you can find out everything about their day, everything going on in their life, because that by taking her to the mental health hospital showed her that I actually cared and I loved her and I wanted to keep her. The car ride home, she admitted to me why she was doing it, and it was to relieve the pain. Right. And they do it in places you don't even see happening, because it was happening for months right underneath our noses. And God bless the teacher we had that caught it. She just happened to see a mark on her arm and then asked to see it. And the teacher became an advocate with us. So you put people in your lives that are going to be advocates to fight for this kid's life, because they don't think life is worth fighting for. But if you keep trying to show them that life is worth it, they start to see the light at the tunnel, that they're not going to be in this dark tunnel by themselves.
You mentioned you help now parents and, students or young kids become an advocate for themselves, or you help parents, voice, stand up and raise the attention to things. Is there any specific tools or one of your favorite techniques that you maybe give to a kid or an adult to learn how to be an advocate for themselves?
Um, so one thing that I teach them to be an advocate, but also to help with themselves, is something I actually took from you when you lived with us for a little while, is how you always wrote those sweet little messages with a dry erase marker on the mirror.
Mhm.
So we started doing that in our household after you lived with us, that we would put like a question, or she could write a question to me on there. So, and it always went back to like how she could help herself, how to do this, or she would put down how she felt about herself on the mirror. And then I would get to see that, and we would go back and forth on each other's mirrors writing. So you're going to build confidence in them. But teaching them advocacy for themselves is when there's something not right inside you, it's your body crying out for help, whether it be your guts crying out for help or your brain's crying out. But find that person. And I always tell my kids, you're not getting in trouble. We have a free time talk where they get 10 minutes every day. And typically my daughter and I would lay in the bed, turn the lights off, because for her, it felt like she was by herself, but she could speak freely. There are no consequences allowed. And you have to be okay with what they're going to tell you. And so teaching them to, like, for instance, we taught her when she was young, she had some educational problems. So we taught her to be an advocate for that. So she kept pushing and pushing and pushing until we could get her actually test it to find out that her foundational break was there. But she drove that horse. So we taught her to drive that horse to get her education to where it needed to be. When it came to her mental health, she absolutely, because society wants to shun mental health, especially in children, they call it behavioral, versus what it really is the kids. You look at it when you have a 2-year-old or a 1-year-old who can't talk. When something's going on, they're going to scream, yell, whatever. They're going to throw to get your attention. It's the same in no matter what age a child is. It just becomes words at the point when they become an adult, or when they become a teenager, they start saying, I hate you, and stuff. Well, they don't really hate you. They're trying to tell you something's not right. And they only ever attack the people that they truly love. And that's how you know that something's not right. Because when she started to come at me all the time, but never did it to my husband, I was like, okay, honey, something's wrong with her, because she never does this.
Wow.
And so then that's when we started really watching. And then when she got her concussion, we had this great, it was really weird. When her brain was swollen the most, she was the happiest. She had the greatest mental health at the time. She was sleeping.
Wow.
And then when the brain started to unswell, and we actually learned all the damage that actually happened during that concussion, is when the suicide attempts started to really ramp up.
Wow. So, wow. Okay. So, like, that's a really great example of finding the positive in the negative because it's that's hard to do as a parent sometimes. And when we're going through it, it doesn't really feel like there's going to be a positive in anything. But it sounds like this concussion, which at the time is like a crappy thing to have happen to our kids. I think almost every parent who's ever had an athlete as a child knows what that experience is like. But that shunned the light, that started to shine the light on what was really maybe happening underneath the surface. So it was, in a sense, kind of a blessing, because then once you know what's there, now we can start working on it. But it's so many people don't even realize what's underneath the surface until it's too late. Oh, wow. Okay. So really quickly, because we are almost out of time, because you've lost, your daughter, you have turned that what we'd say like a mess into a message. You're now an advocate. You're now, a mentor. What would be, like, what did you do because you've lost your daughter now? Because I think you make kits for kids. Like, tell me just a quick minute, on what it is that you actually do for teens now. How have you taken this mess and turned it into something bigger?
So we're still in the process of working with police departments in the area to make care kits for families. So there's a little bit geared towards the kids, but it's more geared towards parents and helping their kids with mental health. So we have, I've worked with quite a few mental health professionals to have packets in there how to de-escalate anxiety, depression, suicide. I also work with the suicide hotline, and they will be at our book signing. They're actually going to be there to help talk about advocacy of prevention for suicide. But we put these care kits in to be able to lock up cabinets that have medicine, be able to dispose of sharps containers or sharp objects in a container where kids cannot get into. I do have some sweet things for the kids that some patches, things that tell them that they do matter, they're loved, that someone does care about them. And then big thing is I mentor kids. So if you've got 30 minutes once a week to go spend with a child in a school that is considered a high risk, I'm going to tell you, you will get just as much as that child does out of it. But it's probably one of the things I look forward to the most in the day. And our daughter is the one who shoved my husband and I to be mentors. It wasn't me doing it. It was my daughter, because of what I've always instilled in her and advocated in her and taught her. She begged us to do it because of what we were doing for her. She wanted other kids to experience that.
Wow. Wow. Oh, wow, gosh, I could have just kept going because this is really a topic that hits my soul. It really does. And if you're a mother, then this is obviously one of those conversations that nobody ever really wants to talk about, but this stuff does happen. And we do need to bring the light up into mental health and support our kids and advocate for them because they don't feel like that their voice matters when they're young. I mean, think about when you were 12, 13, 14 and beyond, right? It felt like the world was caving in and we really needed, our hero to be by our side and to support us. And, even when we're lashing out and not being so loving and kind. But you mentioned the event, right? So if you're listening and you're catching this episode today, Jenn is one of our keynote speakers at the Rise Where Purpose Meets Power event. She's also a best-selling author in the Alpha Queens Rising collaborative book that we launched a couple of months ago. But super excited. I want to tell you a little bit about this event really quick, and then we'll kind of finish off with that rapid fire fun session. So I want to personally invite you, if you are listening to this episode, if you are a mother, if you are a woman in leadership, if you're an entrepreneur, this is a day that is going to expand you. This is not your typical women's empowerment event where you're going to leave feeling inspired but unclear. This is an activation where you're going to hear from 9 incredible keynote speakers, and you're going to be able to meet best-selling authors that are, sharing real powerful stories of leadership, in action and in real time. And I'll be, of course, leading 4 transformational workshop sessions really designed to help women step fully into their iconic leadership era as a wife, as a mom, as an entrepreneur. And I promise you guys, you won't just walk away motivated. You're going to walk away with the clarity, the tools, and the strategy, and the clear next move on what to do once you leave that room. So if you know you're meant for more, please get yourself your ticket. You can find the ticket link, of course, in the show summary. So Jenn, one of my favorite parts of the conversation, because it's real quick, answer, in a matter of just a second. I'm going to ask you just a couple of questions, and you'll just shoot up what comes up for you. So, are you a coffee or a tea drinker?
I love tea, and I do love coffee, but I do love tea a little bit more than coffee.
Love it. Are you an early bird or a night owl?
I'm a butt crack of dawn kind of girl. Like, I'm up before the sun's up.
I love that. And one word that your kids would use to describe you. What do you think it would be?
Loving pops to my head, but crazy also does, because my kid would tell you if I'm at a sporting event, he's always like, shh.
I love it.
So I think they would say loving, because all the way up to 13, my kids would still snuggle. My older one still snuggled with me on the couch when they didn't feel good. So I think loving.
loving Trump's possible crazy, but you guys, her crazy matches my crazy. There's a reason why we're best friends, and that I would have totally trusted her with my kiddos. But like I said, she's a phenomenal woman, wife, and leader, an advocate for youth mental health, and just really getting that word out there. So if you know someone who needs to speak with Jenn or wants to speak with Jenn around ways that they can get some support and become a better advocate, please reach out to her. And ladies, if this conversation is a reminder that leadership isn't always loud and it doesn't always come with recognition in business. Leadership looks like being present when it's hard in your kids' life. It looks like advocating when it would just be easier to stay quiet or ignore it. And it looks like choosing awareness and compassion and courage and love day after day after day. So motherhood is leadership. And when parents lead with care and intention around mental health, they don't just change their family, they shape the future, in my opinion. So you guys, if you're listening to today as a parent, know this. What you do inside the household matters. How you show up for your kids matters, right? And your leadership begins exactly where you are in the home. So I will see you next time on Iconic Leadership. Thank you so much for tuning in today. Subscribe to our show and download our podcast. Bye for now. Thank you so much for listening to another episode of Iconic Leadership. If today's conversation activated something within you, make sure you subscribe and share this podcast with women who are ready to rise up too. Leaving a review helps this movement reach more women stepping into their power. This is Iconic Leadership.